Hello readers, I'm Amy and we are gonna go ahead and do a wrap up. I don't write dates in my little book journal thing, but I think this is all of my June books that I read. I've been struggling with reading lately, so if I struggle with talking about some of these books, it's because they've been few and far between. My reading has been really slow. I just finished up one of my school terms, so it's been a lot, but getting back into it. So I'm like, you know what? It's time for a wrap up. I did watch some reviews before this just to refresh my mind a little bit, and I can put some other reviews in the description box below if you want some more details, since, like I said, I've been struggling a little bit lately. But I am going to talk about 3 books. First, we have Goddess of Filth by V. Castro. This is a book that I'm actually borrowing from my friend Demi. My friend Demi got to do a buddy read with the Bookubus here on YouTube, so that was super cool for her, and she let me borrow the book. This is a novella. It's a little over 100 pages. And it's sold as a kind of The Craft retelling. So if you've seen the movie, like, you've got kind of this coven that gets created and they're practicing witchcraft and stuff. In the book, you have this group of girls who get together. They're kind of coming of age, and in their coming of age, they're doing what a lot of girls at that age do. They're experimenting, they're like looking more into their religion and what they think of it, and they're exploring their sexuality maybe, and just they're doing girl stuff, and that's, in this book, includes trying out a little bit of witchcraft. It's sold as something like The Craft, but I wouldn't really compare it to The Craft. You have the witchiness of it, but you have one of the main characters gets possessed, and people are wondering, like, who's possessing her? Why is this thing possessing her? What's going on? As you learn more about the possession of this young woman, the feminism of the story really starts to show itself, which, I mean, the whole story is this awesome feminist tale, but like, it really shows its strength through what exactly that possession involves. This is written by a Mexican-American author. You can definitely see some of the Latinx themes in this book, especially around the possession, and kind of around some of the religious culture that is talked about in the book. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I would say it's a horror, but it's not necessarily a super scary horror. I think it's a horror that most people would be able to get through just fine. Really, really enjoyed this. Thank you, Demi, for letting me borrow this book. Next up, I'm going to talk about Heartstopper Volume 3. I know Volume 4 just came out, but it is not available at either of the libraries that I have cards to, so I can't read it yet. But I did read Heartstopper 3. Trigger warning that eating disorders start to be discussed in this book. It sounds like they're going to be discussed a lot more heavily in book 4. I don't know that for sure. Like I said, I don't have access to it right now. But at this point, I'm loving Heartstopper so much, I might actually buy the series. And it would be the first set of graphic novels that I've ever owned. So maybe that'll be a milestone for me this year. But Heartstopper Volume 3 follows our 2 main characters as they go to Paris and deal with the eating disorder and their relationship, and trying to figure out what the next step in their relationship is, and exploring their friendships more, and dealing with the fallout from some bullying that we saw in previous books. It was cute, and it was introducing some more tough discussions. Like, it's not just about the gay romance at this point. Not that it was ever just about the gay romance. It was about a lot of things in queer culture, but this book specifically starts to focus more on aspects of the relationship and problems that you might come across in a relationship, and being able to talk about them in a healthy way and communicate about them well. And I really appreciated that, so I'm excited to see where Alice Oseman goes with this. By the way, if you're interested, Elise from the Petite Punk will be doing a summer-long kind of read-along with Alice Oseman's books. I don't think I'll really be joining in that, since I don't have a lot of time for reading this summer. I'm really getting into the heavier classes with my graphic design degree, but I might pick up some more Alice Oseman books here and there. I've heard a lot about Radio Silence, and I haven't read it yet. I'm not, as people, regular visitors of my channel know, I'm not big on YA. but I've enjoyed Heartstopper so much that I might pick it up anyways. I just won't necessarily be able to read along with Elise, but if that is something you're interested in, please check her out. I will put links to her videos down below. She's a very sweet person. And yeah, you should join with that, since I can't. Like, let me live through you. And the last book that I'm going to talk about is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. So if you've been here for a little bit, you might remember a while back that I was saying I was kind of at the edge of my rope as far as horror stories go. I hated House on the Hill by Shirley Jackson. I don't think I've liked anything that I've read of hers besides The Lottery, which was a short story. It's not like a whole book. Horror movies I do better with. House on the Hill, whatever the Shirley Jackson movie was, the original movie, not the TV show. I haven't seen the TV show. But the original movie was like kind of boring to me, and the book was boring, and it was more like psychological elements or how people's actions can affect hauntings, but it wasn't in a way that interested me. And then I read The Graveyard Apartment, and that was a Japanese horror about this haunted apartment. It involves this broken elevator and this kind of haunted history of the apartment and the land in which it was built, and you also have a lot of family dynamics happening with the particular family that we're focusing on. You're looking at their relationship to one another, their relationship to the apartment, and something about that book really hooked me, and I'm like, this is a haunted house book that I'm actually interested in. And at the time I decided that Kill Creek would be the last haunted house book that I would try, so this is kind of the journey in that. I did decide I'm not going to be reading Riley Sager's Home Before Dark. Riley Sager's premises are really interesting, but the books just don't quite hit it for me, and I feel like that would just put me in another haunted house slump. So I did pick up Kill Creek, which my husband had on audiobook through Audible, and I loved it. The narrator was phenomenal. Again, you have this idea that I mentioned a minute ago about how people's minds have an effect on the haunting, but it was so much more interesting in this book. So Kill Creek follows these, I believe it's 4 or 5 horror authors, as they get together in this haunted house to spend a night with this guy who's like creating an interview show about it. And then the haunting kind of follows them around for a bit outside of the house. So I liked that we got to see the house and kind of see creepy things that were going on without really getting a lot of explanation. And then I liked that it followed them out of the house and kind of affected the rest of their lives. But the whole thing seemed like you were watching the building of a horror novel within this horror novel. So you have a lot of focus on the characters and their backgrounds and who they are and their different horror styles. And with building a haunting through the minds of people and what they think of this house and just how it got to be haunted, it's like you're building a horror novel. You're deciding, how did this horror novel come to be? How did you decide how it was going to be haunted? I don't know that I'm explaining this very well, but it's a horror novel about how to build a horror novel. And it's about building a horror novel through showing you this horror that these writers are involved in and talking about the horror that they write about. I really don't think I'm explaining this well, but nevertheless, it was a good book. You should read it if you're interested in haunted house stories. If you have any books about haunted houses that you think I might like or should try, please leave them in the comments below, because it's really a very specific genre that I struggle with. I love the idea of a haunted house. I think a lot of them tend to be a little too psychologically focused and a little too slow for me. This one definitely had some more physical aspects to the haunting, which I liked. So let me know down below if you have any recommendations on that. I did start his other book, Violet, which was also a kind of haunted house book, and I put it down when I hit 75%. It's like I was enjoying myself. I thought it was well written, but it was taking so long to get through that by the time I hit 75%, I wasn't actually sure if the story had started yet. So unfortunately, that did not hit well for me like Kill Creek did. But nonetheless, I like Scott Thomas's writing, and I'm intrigued to see what he comes up with in the future. So that is going to be it for this little half-wrapped video, which is really a whole wrapped video because it's everything that I read in the last month. Please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media. I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.